What is going on, guys? This is Daniel, and today I'm back with another edition of why the NBA is addicted to this play. Today we'll be breaking down a set play nearly every team runs in some form, so let's get to it. The play we'll be looking at today is a set commonly run after a timeout or a dead ball, and here's the basic action. You have a ball screen on top, often set by the center, while simultaneously there's a baseline pin to the strong side corner. And that's it, that's the basic play. I asked a buddy of mine who works in the league, and there isn't a universal name for this, so we'll just leave it unnamed. Now, teams will use different ways to get into it. For example, the Hawks first have Huerter reject Teague's off-ball screen, and then Teague will get a handoff as Huerter uses the baseline pin. And now the Hawks are in it, and Huerter gets a look. But regardless of the initial setup, once the simultaneous actions are happening, it's clear why this play has become so popular the last 5 or so years. For one, it provides for advantageous pick and roll spacing. Here the Lakers run it, and with only one weak side shooter, there is only one weak side defender to tag McGee. This is called a single side tag. So with the strong side occupied with the baseline pin, that's what this play creates. Now Holiday is in a tough spot. He doesn't want to leave Green, so this gives up the lob. Compare that to this, where here the Bulls have a pick and roll with 2 weak side shooters, and this makes it easier to tag the roll man. You have a tag at the nail, and a low man to tag as well. Along with the single side tag, this play also creates a wide gap. The baseline pin bunches up the players, and that black line traces the 3-point arc, showing how there's no defenders in the gap. Compare that to this pick and roll, where the Pistons do create a single side tag, but with 2 strong side players in the wing and the corner, instead of distracting the defense with a baseline screen, the gap is small, leaving no space for Rose to get downhill. So conceptually, the pick and roll with this popular play should be successful, and here it all comes together for the Nets. So we first have Harris slipping out to the weak side, and notice how high he's lifted, making it very tough for his defender to try to tag DeAndre. And if he doesn't tag, who will with the rest of the weak side cleared? There's a large gap allowing Dinwiddie to pierce the 3-point line, the baseline pin occupies 2 defenders, and everything works out. Also, a crucial part of this play was Jordan's screen. He tries to slip out of it as quickly as possible so he rolls ahead of the ball. Dinwiddie only gets a slight advantage, but that's all he needs. Now, while it's nice to have a lob threat, it isn't required for the play. For instance, here Jokic is the ball screener, and he can catch it on the short roll. So the pick and roll can be effective, and also teams will often hit the player off of the baseline pin. It gives the point guard multiple options, and can make it a hard play to guard. Notice here how Dragic first looks to hit the roll, but then he can quickly pivot his attention to the corner. Every team runs it a bit different. Some won't really look to score off of the pick and roll, and will instead focus on the baseline pin for their shooter, and that's what I've seen the Cavs do. Delly isn't looking to attack here, as the Cavs are trying to free Love off of the screen, and what's nice is the ball screen can create a nice passing angle for Delly. So there's a lot to like about this play, and this is good stuff from Atlanta. Nothing is immediately open, but the ball doesn't stick, and they play well off of it. Now, like all plays, this one is far from unstoppable, so let's take a look at how to defend it. And from a defensive perspective, they're really just in their base coverages, so how to defend it just depends on how a particular team likes to defend a pick and roll or an off-ball screen. For instance, here the Blazers are in a deep drop with Whiteside, Lillard helps weak side at the nail, and they'll live with the floater. If the defense is in a drop, one of the main keys is for the defensive big to not let the roll man get behind him, and here Gordon does a good job. The Heat are looking for Jones on the lob, and Gordon is unlikely to get much help from a tag, but he stays back and the Magic contain the play. Here Dallas runs it, and we see that the gap allows Luka some space on the perimeter, but one of the negatives of the play is that the spacing in that lower strong side area will tend to get crowded. Now offensively, you can still score. Maybe Luka can't get all the way to the rim, but he can still exploit the single side tag. But from a defensive perspective, one of the ways you can disrupt the play is by sending strong side help, and it just takes smart defenders who can determine how much help is needed. Here, Ilyasova gives a quick stun, and that makes Dragic pick up his dribble. And what's fun is now this really becomes a game of execution. Want to make it easier to help? Be lazy with your baseline pin as the Heat were here. The other factor that can shut down this play is good ball pressure, which of course is important regardless of the offensive play. Here, good work from Dennis Smith. He pressures that first pass, making Morant initiate from half court, which lets Smith go under the ball screen, and now the timing of the play is off. Morant is unable to get downhill initially, and now the defense has the advantage. Moving on to team-specific variations. Let's touch on a few, starting in Memphis. They run this play as much as any team I saw, usually starting with their point guard setting a screen, and then he pops out on top and receives the ball screen. So to keep things unpredictable, they have a variation where the screener, instead of rolling to the basket, will veer and pin down for the weak side shooter. Solid action. And here was a nice coaching adjustment versus Houston after a timeout. Same play, and we see Anderson again veer into the pin with the baseline pin still happening. But this time Anderson slips the pin to the basket to counter Houston's switch everything defense, and it works. The slip is a great way to counter switching, and we see there's bad communication from Harden and Covington. Memphis probably purposely involved Harden as well. The Grizzlies also like to run their stretch big off of the baseline pin, and here Jaren Jackson comes off and nails a corner three. You can use players as puzzle pieces with this set, and this is a good example. Tolliver comes off of the screen to possibly shoot a three, but at worst he's dragging a good defensive big in Kleber away from the rim. Lastly, let's look to Utah, who had a very clever play. First, watch it and try to notice their twist. So Bogdanovic looks like he's setting the baseline pin, but then he pivots and sprints to set a back screen on Gobert's man. So they use this baseline screen as decoy to run what's called stack, or the Spain pick and roll, a very popular NBA set. This unexpected change confuses the hell out of Payton and Harkless, who mess up the switch. They don't run this play often, but after a timeout they ran it again this same game. A really thoughtful way to disguise stack, which is a back screen for the ball screener. Also, I want to tell you about Ryan Arcidiacono's new point guard program over at EffectiveBasketball.com. I watched a good amount of it, and there's some really good stuff in it for young guards, particularly when Arch teaches the pick and roll, and he shows how to just be a fundamental player, which is why he's in the NBA. So thanks for watching guys, please subscribe if you like this video, and I'll see you next time.